The day I walked out of Bedford Hills Correctional, the autumn air hit differently than it had 5 years ago. Freedom should have tasted sweet, but all I could taste was bile rising in my throat as I looked at the photo in my trembling hands. My sister Danielle in a wedding dress, standing next to my husband Louis. My daughter Evelyn, barely visible in the background, looked so grown up it made my heart ache. My name is Maya, and until 5 years ago, I was living what I thought was the perfect life. Senior partner at a prestigious law firm, beautiful home in Westchester, and a family I would have died for. Funny how life has a way of showing you just how wrong you can be about everything. Maya! A familiar voice cut through my thoughts. I looked up to see Alana, my former colleague, waiting by her car. She rushed over and wrapped me in a tight hug. God, I've missed you. Thanks for coming, I managed, my voice rough from disuse. 5 years of minimal human contact does that to you. Get in, we have a lot to talk about. Alana's face was grim as she opened the passenger door. During the drive, she filled me in on what the newspapers hadn't. Louis and Danielle got married 2 years ago. They're living in your old house. With my daughter. The words felt like glass in my mouth. Maya, Alana glanced at me. There's more. They're trying to terminate your parental rights permanently. I closed my eyes, remembering the last time I saw Evelyn. She was 5, crying and reaching for me as they led me away in handcuffs. They can't do that. They're claiming abandonment due to incarceration. Louis has some heavyweight lawyers working on it. Abandonment? I laughed bitterly. They put me here. They orchestrated everything. I know. Alana's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. And I think I finally have proof. We pulled up to a small diner off the highway. Inside, an elegant older woman sat alone in a corner booth, her silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. My heart stopped when I recognized her. Athena? I whispered. Louis's mother looked up, her steel-gray eyes meeting mine. Hello, Maya. Please sit. Alana squeezed my shoulder and stepped away, giving us privacy. I slid into the booth, my prison-issued bag clutched in my lap like a shield. I suppose you're wondering why I'm here, Athena said, stirring her coffee. The thought crossed my mind. I know what my son did to you. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. And I have proof. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside were bank statements, emails, and photographs, a paper trail leading straight to Louis and the fabricated evidence that had put me away. Why are you helping me? I asked, suspicious. Athena had never approved of me, had fought against our marriage from day one. Because I watched my son destroy a good woman's life. Because my granddaughter deserves better than to be raised by 2 people who could do something so despicable. She leaned forward. And because I know exactly what it's like to be betrayed by family. A waitress approached, but Athena waved her away. Louis thinks he's untouchable now. He's followed in his father's footsteps, building his life on lies and other people's misery. Her voice hardened. I stayed quiet once before, when his father did similar things. I won't make that mistake again. What do you want from me? I want justice. For you, for Evelyn, and for others they've hurt. She pulled out another document. This is a record of Louis's offshore accounts. He's been laundering money through his firm for years. The same firm where your sister is now a partner. My chest tightened. Danielle had always been jealous of my success, my marriage, my life, but I never thought she'd go this far. I have resources, Athena continued, connections, people who owe me favors. Help me bring them down, and I'll help you get your daughter back. I stared at the evidence in front of me, thinking of Evelyn growing up in a house built on lies, thinking of Louis and Danielle, sleeping in my bed, living my life, while I spent 5 years in a cell. When do we start? I asked. Athena's smile was sharp as a blade. We already have. Your friend Alana has been gathering evidence for months. We just needed you free to make the next move. Through the diner's window, I watched the sunset paint the sky blood red. 5 years ago, I was a woman who believed in the law, in justice, in family. Now I was something else, something forged in betrayal and hardened by time. They took everything from me, I said quietly. Then let's take it all back. Athena reached across the table and gripped my hand. Every last piece. Athena's penthouse apartment overlooked Central Park, the kind of place that screamed old money and carefully guarded secrets. I sat at her marble kitchen island while Alana spread documents across the surface like dealing cards. These transactions don't make sense, Alana said, pointing to a series of numbers. Lewis has been moving millions through these accounts, but his firm's declared income doesn't match up. That's because he's been cooking the books since he made partner, Athena replied, sliding a fresh cup of coffee toward me. Just like his father taught him. We need more than just suspicious transactions, I said, my lawyer's mind already working. We need concrete proof of fraud. The doorbell rang and Athena smiled. That would be our other guest. A man in his 40s walked in, his tie loosened and jacket wrinkled from a long day. I recognized him immediately. Ken? Ken Dixon, the prosecutor who'd put me away, looked different now, older, wearier. Maya, I've spent 5 years trying to figure out how I got it so wrong. You didn't get it wrong, I said. You just didn't have all the pieces. He set his briefcase on the counter. I do now, and I'm here to help make it right. Ken's been investigating Lewis's firm for the past year, Athena explained. Off the books, of course. The evidence that convicted you? Ken pulled out a thick file. It was perfect. Too perfect. I should have seen it then. Lewis had years to plan it, I said, my voice bitter. He and Danielle thought of everything. Not everything. Alana pointed to her laptop screen. Look at this. Every month, large sums move from these offshore accounts to a trust in the Caymans. The beneficiary is listed as EJ Holdings. Evelyn Jackson, I whispered. He's hiding money in our daughter's name? Classic move, Ken said. He's using her trust fund to launder money. Probably thinks no one would look too closely at a child's account. But that's not all. Athena pulled up another document on her tablet. Lewis has been bribing judges, 3 of them, including the one who presided over your case. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. How do we prove it? We already have proof. Ken smiled grimly. One of the judges came forward last month. He's wearing a wire. The thing about my son, Athena said, pouring herself a drink, is that he inherited his father's arrogance along with his corruption. He thinks he's untouchable. A notification pinged on Alana's laptop. She clicked it open and gasped. Maya, you need to see this. It was an email from Danielle to Lewis, dated just before my arrest. Everything's in place. The evidence will lead exactly where we want it to. She'll never see it coming. My vision blurred with tears of rage. My own sister... We can use this, Ken said quietly. But we need to be smart. If we move too fast, Lewis will bury everything. I want to see Evelyn, I said suddenly. I need to see my daughter. The room fell silent. Finally, Athena spoke. She's at dance class every Tuesday afternoon. The studio on 73rd Street. Maya, Alana warned, if Lewis or Danielle find out... I don't care. I stood up. I've missed 5 years of her life. I'm not missing another day. Ken reached into his pocket and handed me a business card. My private number. Call me if anything goes wrong. The next afternoon, I stood across the street from the dance studio, my heart pounding. Through the large windows, I could see young girls in leotards at the bar. And there she was, my Evelyn, taller now, her dark hair in a neat bun. She moved with grace, serious and focused, just like I remembered. She has your determination. I spun around. David, my childhood friend, stood there with a sad smile. Alana called me, he explained. Thought you might need backup. David... I hadn't seen him since the trial, where he'd tried desperately to defend me. I'm sorry I pushed you away. You did what you had to do to survive. He touched my arm gently, but you're not alone anymore. The dance class ended and girls began streaming out. Evelyn emerged, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and our eyes met across the street. For a moment, time stopped. Mom? Her voice was barely a whisper, but I heard it clear as a bell. Before I could move, a car pulled up. Danielle stepped out, her designer sunglasses hiding her eyes. "Evelyn! Time to go, honey!" My daughter looked between us, confusion and something else, fear on her face. Danielle followed her gaze and froze when she saw me. "Maya." She took a step forward. David's hand tightened on my arm. "Not here," he murmured. "Not now." I watched as Danielle hurried Evelyn into the car, my sister's hands shaking as she closed the door. Before they drove away, Evelyn pressed her palm against the window, her eyes locked on mine. "Soon," I promised silently. "I'm coming for you soon." She saw me. I paced Athena's living room, unable to sit still. "Danielle will tell Louis." "Good," Athena said, typing rapidly on her laptop. "Let him get rattled. People make mistakes when they're scared." David handed me a glass of water. "Maya, sit down before you wear a hole in that expensive carpet." My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. My hand shook as I read it. "Mom, is that really you? Please answer." "Evelyn," I breathed. "But how?" "She's 10, Maya," David said gently. "Kids that age know how to get burner accounts." I started typing, but Athena grabbed my phone. "Wait, we need to be careful. They could be monitoring her devices." The doorbell rang. Alana burst in, waving a USB drive. "You're not going to believe what I found. Louis has been busy since you went away." She plugged the drive into Athena's computer and pulled up several documents. "These are records of property purchases, all through shell companies. But look at the dates." "These align perfectly with his major court victories," I said, scanning the documents. "Properties bought just days after winning cases." "Kickbacks," David muttered. "He was getting paid under the table. There's more." Alana clicked through more files. "Remember Judge Harrison?" My blood ran cold. Judge Harrison had presided over my case. "What about him?" "He bought a vacation home in Bermuda 3 weeks after your conviction. Guess who handled the transaction?" "Louis," Athena finished, "through one of his shell companies." My phone buzzed again. Another message from Evelyn. "Mom, Aunt Danielle is crying in her room. Dad's yelling. I'm scared." Before anyone could stop me, I typed back, "I love you, sweetheart. Stay strong. Everything will be okay soon." "Maya," Athena warned, but I held up my hand. "She needs to know she's not alone." My voice cracked. "She needs to know her mother didn't abandon her." The door flew open. Ken rushed in, his face flushed. "We have a problem. Judge Harrison was found dead in his office an hour ago." The room went silent. "Suicide?" David asked. Ken shook his head. "Made to look like it, but my contact in homicide says the scene feels staged." "Louis," Athena whispered. "He's cleaning house." My phone rang. Danielle's number. Everyone stared as I answered and put it on speaker. "Maya?" Her voice was shaky. "Please, I need to talk to you." "There's nothing to say." "You don't understand. Louis, he's not who you think. He's not who I thought." She lowered her voice. "I found something in his office. Something bad. Really bad. Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm scared, Maya. For me. For Evelyn." She started crying. "He's been acting strange since he saw you at the dance studio. Making calls. Shredding documents. He has a gun now." Alana was already tracing the call, mouthing, "Keep her talking." "Why did you do it, Danielle?" I asked, the question that had haunted me for 5 years. "Why did you help him destroy me?" "Because I was in love with him. Because I was jealous. You always had everything, the grades, the career, the perfect life. I wanted it. I wanted what you had." She took a shuddering breath. "But not like this. Not anymore." "Where's Evelyn now?" "At home, in her room. Louis is at the office." A pause. "Maya, there's a safe in his study. The combination is Evelyn's birthday. Everything you need is in there." Ken was already on his phone, speaking quietly to someone. "Danielle," I said, "if you're setting me up again—" "I'm not. I swear on Mom and Dad's graves." Another pause. "I'm so sorry, Maya. For everything." The line went dead. "Got it," Alana said. "She's at your old house." "It could be a trap," David warned. "Or it could be our chance," Ken said, hanging up his phone. I can have a warrant within the hour. Athena stood up. I'm coming with you. No, I said firmly. I need you to do something else. If this goes wrong, someone needs to be ready to take Evelyn. She nodded, understanding. I'll have my driver standing by. Maya, David caught my arm. Let me come with you. Please. I looked at my old friend, seeing the concern in his eyes. Okay, but we do this my way. Ken checked his watch. Warrant will be ready in 40 minutes. We move then. I picked up my phone and sent one last message to Evelyn. Whatever happens tonight, remember I love you more than anything in this world. The response came seconds later. I love you too, Mom. Come get me. Athena handed me a small key. To the back door, Louis never changed the locks. He was too arrogant to think anyone would dare break in. As we gathered our things, I caught my reflection in the window. 5 years ago, I was a victim. Tonight, I was something else entirely. Let's go get my daughter, I said. The house looked exactly the same. White colonial, black shutters, maple tree in the front yard where Evelyn's old swing still hung. But now police cars lined the street, their lights off, waiting. Remember, Ken whispered as we crouched behind the hedges. We have 15 minutes before the warrant arrives. We're just here to get Evelyn and any evidence in that safe. David squeezed my hand. You sure about this? I nodded, clutching the key Athena had given me. Through the kitchen window, I could see Danielle pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Now, Ken signaled. We moved silently around to the back door. The key slid in smoothly, just like it had hundreds of times before. Inside, the house smelled different. Unfamiliar perfume, different laundry detergent. Wrong. Danielle spun around as we entered. Maya! Thank God! Her mascara was streaked with tears. Louis is coming. He knows something's wrong. Where's Evelyn? I demanded. Upstairs. She's... Mom? Evelyn appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her dance clothes. She flew down the steps and into my arms. I held her tight, breathing in her familiar scent. Baby, I missed you so much. I knew you'd come back, she whispered. I knew you weren't bad like they said. The safe, Ken reminded me gently. We need to hurry. David stayed with Evelyn while Danielle led us to Louis's study. The safe was hidden behind a painting. My old favorite, I noticed bitterly. 8:15:12, Danielle recited. Evelyn's birthday. The safe clicked open. Inside were stacks of documents, USB drives, and a small black notebook. That's his ledger, Danielle said. All his contacts, all the bribes, everything. Headlights swept across the windows. A car door slammed. He's here, Danielle whispered, face draining of color. Ken grabbed the safe's contents. Maya, take Evelyn and go. Now. The front door opened. Danielle? Louis's voice. Why are all the lights on? I ran for the stairs, but Evelyn was already heading down, David behind her. Well, well. Louis stood in the foyer, blocking the exit. He looked exactly the same. Handsome, well-dressed, cold eyes. Family reunion? It's over, Louis, I said, pushing Evelyn behind me. We have everything. He smiled, reaching into his jacket. No, Maya, you have nothing. The gun looked black and deadly in his manicured hand. Daddy, no! Evelyn screamed. Be quiet, sweetheart. The adults are talking. His eyes fixed on Danielle. You betrayed me. You betrayed all of us first, Danielle shot back, her voice shaking. You're just like your father, a monster in an expensive suit. Funny you should mention my father. Louis's smile widened. Did you know he didn't really die of a heart attack? Mother Dearest helped him along with his medication. Isn't that right, Mom? Athena stepped through the front door, making us all jump. You knew? I found the proof last year. Been keeping it as insurance. He gestured with the gun. Speaking of insurance, Maya, did you really think I wouldn't have cameras in my own house? Everything that's happened tonight is recorded. Self-defense will be easy to prove when I find intruders in my home. Drop the gun, Louis. Ken emerged from the study, his own weapon drawn. Police are outside. It's finished. Nothing's finished. Louis's composure cracked. I built this life. Everything I have. I earned. By stealing my life? I stepped forward. By taking my daughter? By killing a judge? I did it for us, he said to Evelyn. Everything I did was to give you a better life. You took my mom away, Evelyn cried. You lied to me. Put the gun down, Ken repeated. Don't make this worse. Lewis's hand trembled. I can't go to prison. I can't. Lewis! Athena's voice cracked like a whip. Look at your daughter. Look at what you're doing to her. For a moment, something human flickered in his eyes. Then sirens wailed outside, and red and blue lights flooded the windows. No! He raised the gun. 3 things happened at once. Danielle lunged for Lewis, Ken fired, and David tackled me and Evelyn to the ground. The gunshot seemed to echo forever. When I looked up, Lewis was on the floor clutching his shoulder. Danielle had his gun, hands shaking as she held it on him. Police burst through the door shouting commands. Someone help me up. Evelyn clung to me, sobbing. Maya? David touched my face. You okay? I nodded, watching as officers handcuffed Lewis. He locked eyes with me as they led him past. You'll regret this, he spat. No, I said quietly. I only regret trusting you in the first place. Athena approached Lewis, her face hard. Your father would be proud. You managed to destroy this family even more thoroughly than he did. As they took him away, Evelyn's small hand slipped into mine. Can I come home with you now? I pulled her close, feeling David's steady presence behind us. Yes, baby, we're going home. Outside, the night was alive with police lights and voices, but all I could feel was my daughter's hand in mine, and the weight of 5 years finally lifting from my shoulders. The courthouse buzzed with tension as I sat beside Ken, watching Lewis being led to the witness stand. 2 weeks had passed since that night at the house, and now everything was coming to light. Please state your name for the record, the judge said. Lewis Michael Jackson. His arm was still in a sling, his designer suit replaced by one that seemed a size too large. He wouldn't look at me. Mr. Jackson, Ken stood. Let's discuss the events leading up to your first wife's imprisonment. Objection! Lewis's attorney jumped up. My client's previous testimony is now in question due to new evidence, the judge cut in. Proceed, Mr. Dixon. Ken held up the black notebook from the safe. Can you identify this? Lewis's jaw tightened. It appears to be my personal notebook. The one where you recorded your bribes? The payments to Judge Harrison? I want to make a statement, Lewis said suddenly. His attorney looked startled. Lewis, we discussed. I need to speak. He finally looked at me, then at Evelyn, who sat between David and Athena in the gallery. I did it, all of it. I framed Maya. I bribed Harrison. He swallowed. I arranged his death when he threatened to confess. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Evelyn buried her face in David's shoulder. And your current wife, Danielle Rose? Ken pressed. What was her role? She didn't know about Harrison. That was all me. Lewis's voice cracked. But she helped frame Maya. We both wanted... Wanted what? Everything she had. The words seemed to deflate him. Maya was perfect. The perfect lawyer, perfect wife, perfect mother. Danielle always resented her success. And I needed her gone to access certain accounts, to hide what I'd been doing at the firm. Ken nodded to the bailiff, who opened the courtroom doors. Danielle walked in, escorted by 2 officers. She looked small, defeated. Ms. Rose, Ken said, please tell the court what you discovered in your husband's study the night of his arrest. Danielle's voice shook. Records, proof that he'd been embezzling from client accounts for years, that he'd arranged Harrison's murder, and, she looked at me, evidence that he'd planned Maya's frame-up months in advance. He used my jealousy against me, made me think it was my idea. Your Honor, Ken turned to the judge, the state moves to immediately vacate Maya's conviction based on this testimony and the supporting evidence. So ordered, the judge said without hesitation. Ms. Jackson's record will be expunged. Lewis slumped in the witness box. I'm sorry, he whispered. Save it, I said, loud enough for him to hear. You're only sorry you got caught. The rest of the hearing passed in a blur. Lewis and Danielle were both taken into custody, him for murder and fraud, her for conspiracy. As people filed out of the courtroom, Evelyn ran to me. "Is it really over?" she asked. "Almost." I smoothed her hair. "We still have the custody hearing tomorrow." "That won't be necessary," a voice said. We turned to see Lewis's attorney. "My client has agreed to surrender all parental rights. He says..." The lawyer glanced at his notes. "He says it's the least he can do." Athena approached, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Well, that's one decent decision he's made." "Mom?" Evelyn tugged my sleeve. "Can we see Aunt Danielle before they take her away?" I hesitated, but David touched my shoulder. "Let her say goodbye." Danielle was waiting in a conference room, handcuffed and guarded. She started crying when she saw Evelyn. "I'm so sorry," she said to both of us. "Maya, I know I can never make it right." "No," I agreed, "you can't. But you helped bring him down in the end. That counts for something." "Will you write to me?" Evelyn asked her. "From where you're going?" Danielle wiped her eyes. "If your mom says it's okay." I nodded slightly. Despite everything, she was still my sister, still Evelyn's aunt. Short letters, supervised. "Thank you," Danielle whispered as the guards led her away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. David and Athena formed a protective barrier while Ken handled the press. "Maya!" one reporter broke through. "How does it feel to be exonerated?" I pulled Evelyn close. "Ask me in a few months. Right now, I just want to take my daughter home." "And where is home now?" another called out. "With me," David said firmly, surprising us all. "For as long as they want." Later that night, after Evelyn had fallen asleep in the guest room of David's apartment, he found me on the balcony. "Penny for your thoughts?" "I thought revenge would feel better," I admitted. "More satisfying." "Maybe because it wasn't really revenge in the end," he said. "It was justice." I leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his body, the steadiness I'd always taken for granted. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the same time you stopped being so stubborn," he smiled. "Welcome back to the world, Maya." Inside, Evelyn called out in her sleep. As I went to comfort her, I realized David was right. This wasn't an ending fueled by revenge. It was a beginning built on truth. And maybe, just maybe, that was better. "Mom, do I have to go to school today?" Evelyn stood in David's kitchen, pushing her cereal around the bowl. 2 months had passed since the trial, but some mornings were still harder than others. "What's really bothering you, sweetheart?" "Jamie Thompson told everyone her dad says I come from a family of criminals." She dropped her spoon. "She said I'll probably end up in jail, too." I knelt beside her chair. "Look at me. The actions of Lewis and Danielle don't define you, or me." "But..." The doorbell rang. David answered it, and Athena swept in, elegant as ever. "Good morning, my darlings." "Evelyn, ready for our special day?" I raised an eyebrow. "Special day?" "Grandmother's privilege." Athena winked. "I'm taking her out of school. We have a court date." My stomach dropped. "What court date?" "The reading of Harrison's sealed testimony." She held up an official-looking envelope. "His wife found it in their safe. He recorded everything before..." She glanced at Evelyn. "Before the incident." "I want to go," Evelyn said firmly. "I need to understand." David touched my shoulder. "I'll come too." The courthouse was quieter this time. No media circus, just a small conference room where Ken waited with a video set up. Judge Harrison's wife sat in the corner, gray-faced but composed. "You don't have to watch this," I told Evelyn. "Yes, I do." She gripped my hand. "I'm not a baby anymore." The video started. Harrison looked tired, haunted. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Lewis Jackson will have made sure of that." He detailed everything: the bribes, the threats, the systematic corruption that had poisoned the justice system. Then he looked directly at the camera. "Maya, I failed you. I knew the evidence was fabricated, but I took the money anyway. My wife was sick, the treatments were expensive. But those are excuses. I destroyed an innocent woman's life. Evelyn's hand tightened in mine. But Lewis Jackson's crimes go deeper. He's been working with a human trafficking ring, using his firm to launder their money. The proof is in a storage unit under his wife's maiden name. Unit 247, Riverside Storage. Ken was already on his phone, calling it in. And Danielle, Harrison sighed. She came to me last year, wanted to confess. Lewis threatened to kill her if she did. She's as much a victim as she is a perpetrator. The video ended. Mrs. Harrison stood slowly. My husband was a good man who made terrible choices, she said. He paid for them with his life, but he wanted the truth known. An hour later, we watched from Ken's office window as FBI agents raided the storage unit. Box after box of evidence emerged. This is bigger than we thought, Ken said grimly. Lewis wasn't just corrupt, he was part of an international criminal organization. My phone buzzed. A text from Danielle's prison account. They're moving me to witness protection. Lewis has connections inside. I'm scared. She needs to testify, Ken said, reading over my shoulder. She knows names, dates, everything. Will she be safe? I asked. We'll make sure of it. He paused. Maya, we need you too. Your old case files might contain evidence we missed. Evelyn, who'd been quiet since the video, suddenly spoke up. Mom was the best lawyer ever. She'll help catch all the bad guys. David smiled. She sure will. That evening, back at David's apartment, Evelyn was finally ready to talk. I used to think Daddy was a hero, she said, curled up on the couch between us. That you were the bad guy. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, I told her. You were just a little girl. I'm not anymore. She sat up straighter. And I want to help. I remember things, conversations, people who came to the house. Maybe it could help catch them. David and I exchanged looks. It could be dangerous, he warned. I'm not afraid. She had my determination in her eyes. They hurt our family. They hurt lots of families. Someone has to stop them. My phone buzzed again. Athena. Board meeting tomorrow. Lewis's partners are running scared. Time to take back your firm. What do you say, Mom? Evelyn asked. Can we fight back? Together? I looked at my daughter, seeing not just the little girl I'd lost, but the strong young woman she was becoming. At David, who'd stood by us through everything. At the life we were rebuilding, stronger than before. Together, I agreed. But first, you need to face Jamie Thompson. She grinned. Already handled it. Told her my mom's a hero who fights for justice. Shut her right up. David laughed. That's our girl. As Evelyn headed to bed, she paused in the doorway. Mom, I'm glad you never gave up. On justice? On us. After she left, David pulled me close. You know this isn't over. Lewis's organization will fight back. Let them try. I thought of Harrison's confession, of Danielle's fear, of all the lives destroyed by corruption. We have something they don't. What's that? The truth. And this time we're not letting it stay buried. The law firm's conference room fell silent as I walked in, Athena at my side. 15 partners sat around the mahogany table, faces I'd once known well, now pale with worry. Gentlemen, Athena smiled coldly, I believe you know why we're here. You have no right, Thomas, the managing partner, started. Actually, she does. Alana entered, carrying a stack of files. As majority shareholder, Athena has every right to call this meeting, and as the wrongfully convicted former partner, Maya has every right to be here. You're all implicated, I said, dropping Harrison's files on the table. Every single one of you knew what Lewis was doing. Some of you helped him. That's ridiculous, Patricia, a senior partner, protested. We had no idea. Save it. I slid surveillance photos across the table. You at dinner with known trafficking suspects. You signing documents for shell companies. You depositing unexplained cash into offshore accounts. The door opened again. Ken walked in with 2 FBI agents. Oh God, Thomas whispered. You have a choice, I said. Cooperate now. Tell us everything you know about Lewis's operation or go down with him. They'll kill us, Patricia's voice shook. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Actually, we do. Ken placed a laptop on the table, started a video. This is from an hour ago. The screen showed a warehouse raid. Dozens of arrests, evidence being seized, women being rescued from shipping containers. Your operation is falling apart, Athena said. Lewis talked. Danielle talked. Now it's your turn. My phone buzzed. David. Evelyn safe at school. Extra security in place. Think about your families, I pressed. Your children. Do you want them visiting you in prison? Or worse? Thomas broke first. The Russian connection. It wasn't our idea. Lewis said we just had to look the other way. Looking the way makes you complicit, Ken said, but cooperation might help your sentence. One by one, they started talking. Names, dates, locations poured out. The FBI agents recorded everything. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. The message made my blood freeze. You should have stayed in prison. Now your daughter pays. I showed Ken the message. He immediately called the school. No answer, he said. I was already running for the door when Alana caught my arm. Maya, wait, it's a trap. I don't care. Listen to me. She held up her phone. David just texted. Evelyn's fine. She's with him. Someone pulled the school's fire alarm, but he got her out first. I sagged against the wall, heart pounding. They're desperate, Athena said. This proves we're close. Ken's phone rang. His face turned serious as he listened. Understood. He hung up. Lewis is dead. Found in his cell an hour ago. Suicide? Thomas asked. Made to look like it. Ken's eyes met mine. Just like Harrison. They're cleaning house, Athena realized. Where's Danielle? I demanded. Safe house in Vermont, Ken assured me. But we need to move fast. This organization is collapsing, and they'll try to destroy evidence. My phone buzzed again. David. At your apartment with Evelyn. Something you need to see. Go, Athena said. We'll handle things here. I found David and Evelyn in my living room, staring at an open safe I'd never seen before. It was behind the bookshelf, Evelyn said. I remembered Lewis putting things in it when he thought I was asleep. Inside were more files, USB drives, and a handwritten letter from Lewis. Maya, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead. I knew they'd kill me eventually. Everything you need is here. Names of corrupt judges, politicians, business leaders, the whole network. I'm sorry for what I did to you, to us. Keep Evelyn safe. They'll never stop coming. The only way out is to expose everything. L. He knew, David said quietly. He knew they'd turn on him. Mom? Evelyn touched my arm. What do we do now? Before I could answer, Ken called. Maya, turn on the news. The TV flickered to life. Breaking news banner. Major human trafficking ring exposed. Multiple arrests across 5 countries. It's happening, Ken said. The whole thing's unraveling. But watch your back. Cornered animals are the most dangerous. I looked at Evelyn, so brave and strong. At David, steady and true. At the evidence that could finally end this nightmare. We finish this, I said. Not for revenge anymore. For justice. Together, Evelyn said firmly. David took my hand. Always. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The city was waking up to a new reality, one where the powerful weren't untouchable anymore. And somewhere in the chaos, truth was finally breaking free. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as I walked up them, Evelyn's hand in mine, David and Athena flanking us. This time, I wasn't here as a defendant or a victim. I was here to testify. Ready? Ken met us at the doors. Tell me again who's on trial today, Evelyn asked. 3 judges, 2 senators, and 4 corporate executives, Ken replied. All part of Lewis's network. Inside, Danielle waited in the witness room, looking different in her witness protection makeover. Maya? She hugged Evelyn, then stepped back. They're saying there are still people out there, people we missed. That's why we're here, I said, to finish this. The courtroom was packed. As I took the stand, I saw familiar faces in the gallery, partners from the firm, their families, victims of the trafficking ring. Even Mrs. Harrison sat there, nodding encouragingly. Ms. Jackson, the prosecutor began, please tell the court about the evidence you found in Lewis Jackson's hidden safe. I detailed everything: the money trails, the blackmail, the complex web of corruption that had ensnared so many lives. As I spoke, one of the defendants, Judge Reynolds, started whispering urgently to his lawyer. Your Honor, Reynolds' attorney stood, my client wishes to make a statement. The judge nodded. Reynolds approached the stand. There's a shipping container, he said quietly. Arriving tonight. Pier 17. More girls. I can't live with this anymore. The courtroom erupted. Ken was already on his phone, mobilizing teams. Court is adjourned until tomorrow, the judge announced over the chaos. Outside, Athena grabbed my arm. Maya, look. A black SUV was idling across the street. The window rolled down, revealing a face I recognized from Lewis's files. Victor, the trafficking ring's enforcer. Get Evelyn out of here, I told David. Mom, no, Evelyn protested. Go with David, please. As they retreated inside, Victor stepped out of the SUV. Ms. Jackson, we should talk. Nothing to talk about. There's always something, he smiled coldly. Your daughter is very pretty. My blood froze, but before I could respond, police cars surrounded the SUV. Ken emerged from the courthouse, weapon drawn. Victor Petrov, he called. You're under arrest. Victor reached into his jacket. Multiple shots rang out. He fell, gun clattering away unfired. Mom! Evelyn ran back outside, David close behind. I'm okay, I assured her. It's over. But it wasn't quite over. That night, we gathered in Ken's office, watching live feeds from Pier 17. SWAT teams moved in, freeing 37 women and arresting a dozen traffickers. They're singing like birds, Ken reported, giving up everyone involved. Danielle, who'd been quiet all day, finally spoke. I keep thinking about how it all started, how my jealousy of you led to all this. You helped end it, I reminded her. That counts for something. Maya. Athena entered holding papers. The firm's board voted. They want you back as managing partner. I looked at David, saw the question in his eyes. No, I said. I have a different idea. The next morning, I stood before the firm's remaining partners. We're converting the firm into a nonprofit, dedicated to helping trafficking victims, fighting corruption, providing pro bono services to those who need it most. Can we do that? Patricia asked. With Athena's backing and my leadership? Yes. I'm in, Alana said immediately. One by one, they all agreed. Later, at David's apartment, our apartment now, Evelyn worked on homework while David cooked dinner. Mom, she called, my essay topic is what justice means. Can I write about you? Write about all of us, I said, about how truth always finds a way, about how love is stronger than hate. About family, David added, bringing plates to the table. The ones we're born with and the ones we choose. My phone buzzed. Ken. Last defendant pleaded guilty. It's really over. Mom, Evelyn asked, are you crying? Happy tears, I assured her. Just happy tears. The doorbell rang. Athena entered with Danielle, who looked nervous. I'm leaving for my new life tomorrow, she said, but I wanted to say goodbye properly. Evelyn hugged her aunt. Will we ever see you again? Someday, I said, surprising myself. When it's safe. I don't deserve forgiveness, Danielle whispered. Maybe not, but you deserve a chance to be better. We all do. As we sat down to dinner, this strange, broken, healing family, I thought about justice and revenge, about truth and redemption, about how sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. To new beginnings, David proposed. To family, Athena added. To justice, Evelyn said firmly. I looked around the table at all these faces I loved and raised my glass. To all of it, every messy, beautiful piece. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, each one a reminder that even in the darkest places, light finds a way to shine through.
The streets of Greenwich were bathed in early summer sunlight. In a quiet residential area where young maple leaves swayed in the breeze, real estate agent Olivia Thompson was busy preparing for another property viewing. Standing in a Victorian mansion with over a century of history, gazing at the well-maintained garden, she let out a deep sigh. The perfect family home, she thought with conviction as she completed her final checks. As a top seller at Coldwell Banker, she had built a solid reputation in this upscale neighborhood. However, in her private life, her cautious nature had made it difficult for her to venture into new relationships. Carefully selected clients, a discerning eye, and honest dealings, these were both her principles and her strengths. Her divorce 3 years ago had been a major turning point in her life. Her ex-husband's gambling addiction had shattered their carefully built life in an instant. Yet that experience had made her stronger. Supported by the First Presbyterian Church community, she now enjoyed a peaceful life with her only daughter, Emily. Though she felt lonely at times, she kept moving forward, one step at a time, cherishing the moments with her daughter. "Mom, good morning. I smell pancakes." On weekend mornings, Emily's cheerful voice would echo through the house. Now 15, she was an honor student at Greenwich High School, dedicated to both ballet and piano lessons. Though she was a modern teenager who was savvy with smartphones and social media, she remained thoughtful of her mother, just as she had always been. Helping with weekend breakfast preparations, she seemed almost like a little adult. "Shall we go shopping after church today? You need new ballet shoes, don't you?" Olivia nodded with a smile at Emily's suggestion. Their Sunday ritual of shopping after services at First Presbyterian Church had become a cherished mother-daughter tradition. Shopping at Taylor and J. Crew was their modest indulgence. Sometimes they would enjoy window shopping at the Sono Collection. Church services provided them with peace of mind and strength. Their faith had been a pillar of support during difficult times. Surrounded by the warmth of the community, Olivia felt grateful for their life. A significant change in their peaceful days came during a viewing of a luxury apartment. A penthouse overlooking Fifth Avenue. A gentleman worthy of such luxurious interiors appeared before her. "Miss Thompson, thank you for showing me this wonderful property. This is exactly the view I was looking for." The deep voice belonged to Michael Parker, who introduced himself as an investment advisor. Dressed in a fine Brooks Brothers suit with a tastefully understated Rolex on his wrist, his gentlemanly demeanor captivated her. His Yale MBA education and sophistication were evident in every conversation. Though naturally cautious, Olivia gradually opened her heart to Michael's sincere personality. He would pick them up in his Range Rover, and on holidays, the three would enjoy meals at the Cheesecake Factory. Emily seemed to have a good impression of Michael as well, particularly admiring his extensive knowledge and refined manner. "A gift for your daughter. I heard it's the latest model." The gift from Michael was an iPhone 14 that Emily had been wanting. Though hesitant as a mother, seeing her daughter's joy made her accept his thoughtfulness. Michael's consideration was always appropriate and comfortable. Even her parents in Florida expressed their happiness about her relationship with Michael over the phone. "Finally, spring has come for you," her mother said, making Olivia blush. She secretly hoped this might be the beginning of a new life. Emily was absorbed in her new smartphone. Watching this peaceful scene, Olivia felt happiness. The atrium of the Sono collection was bustling with weekend shoppers. Among the people passing by luxury brand shops, Olivia, Emily, and Michael strolled leisurely. They were just another happy family enjoying their weekend shopping. "Oh, Emily. How about this dress for your ballet recital?" At Nordstrom's junior section, Olivia picked up a light blue chiffon dress. Emily's eyes sparkled. Michael smiled and said, "It would suit you perfectly," while discreetly checking the price tag. "Let's try it on." Just then, Michael's smartphone rang. His expression tensed for a moment as he looked at the screen. "I'm sorry. It's an important call from a client. I'll need to step away for a moment." Michael bowed politely and quickly headed down the escalator. Watching his retreating back, Olivia felt something was off. These sudden phone calls seemed to be happening more frequently lately. While Emily was trying on the dress in the fitting room, Olivia was checking her calendar on her smartphone. She had 3 important property viewings next week. As she was scrolling through the screen, she heard Emily's voice. The fitting room curtain opened. While the dress certainly suited her, there was anxiety in Emily's expression. "What's wrong?" "This app, it was installed, but I don't remember downloading it." Emily held out her iPhone 14, showing a screen with unfamiliar icons. An app called System Update Pro. At first glance, it looked like a genuine settings app, but Olivia couldn't remember such an app existing. "Recently, the battery's been draining really fast. And sometimes, I notice the green light next to the camera is on." Maternal instinct sent out a warning signal. Olivia took her daughter's smartphone and opened the settings screen. What she saw made her blood run cold. The app permissions screen showed an alarming list of authorizations. Camera, microphone, location data, call history, messages, photos, contacts, access to every type of information. "Emily, how long has this app been?" She swallowed the rest of her question. The thought that these strange behaviors might have started after Michael's gift made Olivia's hands tremble. "I'm calling the police right away." Gripping the smartphone, she dialed 911. In the Nordstrom fitting room, such an ordinary place, their peace was beginning to crumble audibly. "I'll transfer you to the cybercrime division." The receptionist's voice sounded strangely unreal. Meanwhile, on Emily's smartphone screen, a small icon indicating location services continued to blink. Someone was watching them. Monitoring them. Just the thought sent chills down her spine. 15 minutes later, a detective arrived. Though relatively young, he was clearly a cybercrime specialist. "Detective Brian Connor," he said, showing his badge, and immediately began analyzing Emily's smartphone. The detective's face grew pale as he looked at the data displayed on the smartphone screen. "I'm very sorry, but we'll need to confiscate this smartphone as evidence. This is a serious privacy violation case." There was unmistakable tension in the detective's voice. "Your daughter's location has been meticulously recorded for the past 3 weeks. Furthermore..." The detective paused, choosing his words carefully before continuing. We found evidence that call recordings, secretly captured camera images, and message histories, all of these were being transmitted externally. Olivia felt the blood drain from her feet. Holding Emily close, she asked with a trembling voice, "Michael, where is Michael Parker?" The detective shook his head. "We've checked the mall's security cameras, but it appears Parker has already left. A vehicle matching the description of his Range Rover was seen leaving the parking lot 20 minutes ago." Under the brilliant lights of the luxury shopping mall, Olivia was trying to accept reality. Her meeting with Michael, his seemingly sincere attitude, his gentlemanly behavior, had it all been a lie? Their reflection in the fitting room mirror looked painfully small. Emily's new dress lay on the floor, never to be picked up again. The lights in the conference room of the Greenwich Police Department's Cybercrime Division stayed on late into the night. The large screen on the wall displayed data extracted from Emily's smartphone one after another. Olivia held her daughter's shoulders as they watched the footage with bated breath. "We have new information about Michael Parker's identity." Detective Brian spread out a thick file. False identification using letterhead from a real investment advisory firm, skillfully forged credentials, and his Yale MBA was also fabricated. Furthermore, the Range Rover he drove was a leased vehicle under someone else's name. The Brooks Brothers suits were likely purchased through credit card fraud. The atmosphere in the conference room grew heavy. Outside the window, the early summer night breeze rustled through the street trees. "That's not all." Female detective Sarah Martin presented new documentation. Her expression showed deep concern. "Over the past 3 years, we've confirmed 5 similar cases in the New England region, targeting single mothers in wealthy areas." Her words trailed off. Everyone understood what she left unsaid. The obsession with their daughters. This was more than just marriage fraud. "We've analyzed the data recovered from the smartphone." IT investigator James Lee displayed new screens on the monitor. "System Update Pro is sophisticated spyware not available to the general public. It appears to be adapted from military-grade technology. Installation requires specialized knowledge." Olivia's memories suddenly became crystal clear. The number of times Michael stepped away to take phone calls. The unnatural length of time he spent checking settings when borrowing Emily's smartphone. All the dots were connecting. These are some of the videos recorded in Emily's room. The screen showed Emily returning from ballet lessons, doing homework, talking on the phone with friends. Every moment of her daily life had been secretly recorded. Olivia held her daughter tightly. The 15-year-old girl trembled slightly in her arms. After checking the location history, Detective Brian showed a new map. "We found evidence that Parker had been frequently lying in wait around Emily's school route, ballet studio, and friends' homes. He used the smartphone's location data to completely map out Emily's behavior patterns." Maternal guilt overwhelmed Olivia. Why hadn't she noticed? Why hadn't she been suspicious? He had pretended to meet them at First Presbyterian Church, exploited the community's trust, and then, "Mom, Emily's voice broke through the conference room's heavy atmosphere. Actually, Michael, he'd been sending me strange messages. From the smartphone's backup data, they recovered deleted message histories. They contained words that no adult man should send to a teenage girl. Why didn't you tell me? Because you seemed happy, Mom. For the first time in a long time, you were smiling. Those words constricted Olivia's heart. Her daughter had suppressed her own anxiety, wanting her mother to be happy. We have an important development. Detective Sarah rushed back into the conference room. We've identified Parker's real name. James Murphy, age 46. He was charged with attempted sexual assault of a minor in 2019 but was released due to insufficient evidence. Since then, it appears he's been repeating similar schemes across state lines. The investigation continued late into the night. The next morning, as the first light began to illuminate the city, new facts came to light. The estimated total damages exceeded $1 million. He had extracted money through promises of marriage and investment schemes. But most serious was his obsession with underage daughters. Suspect's vehicle confirmed at the Connecticut state line. With the U.S. Marshal's report, the investigation entered a new phase. However, another battle was beginning in Olivia's heart, healing Emily's emotional wounds, and forgiving herself. The bells of First Presbyterian Church announced morning prayers. It was also the sound of a new day beginning. Mother and daughter would have to walk a long path to recovery. Miss, could I ask you one more question? Detective Brian's voice was gentle. Emily nodded slightly and began to speak. Greenwich's early morning was pierced by sirens. It was the moment when the police special unit stormed a luxury hotel room. After 72 hours on the run, Michael Parker, real name James Murphy, was arrested without incident. At the time of arrest, the suspect was in the middle of setting up a date with his next target. The luxury hotel room yielded forged passports, multiple cell phones, and a high-performance laptop. The next day, in the Greenwich Police Department's interrogation room, I waive my right to remain silent and will make a voluntary statement. The suspect's voice was emotionless. His Brooks Brothers suit was wrinkled, and the Rolex watch was gone. The mask of the sophisticated investment advisor had completely fallen away. The search results are in. James Lee from the Cybercrime Division analyzed massive amounts of data. One piece of shocking evidence after another was discovered on the suspect's computer. The victim photo folder contained classified images of 14 women and their daughters. Dates, locations, and personal information were meticulously organized, like a hunting record. Detective Brian stared intently at the images displayed on the monitor. There were numerous photos taken in front of Greenwich High School's gate. Emily in her uniform. Talking with friends. Her back view carrying a ballet lesson bag. All photos had been taken without Emily's knowledge. We've determined the suspect's method of operation. Detective Sarah reported the detailed analysis results. First, he would scout wealthy single mothers at real estate open houses or church community events. He particularly targeted families with teenage daughters. The projected diagram showed a perfect crime plan. Next, posing as an investment advisor, he would approach them. He would gain their trust with his refined appearance and educated manner. As the relationship progressed, he would give their daughters gifts of compromised smartphones. And then, using spyware. Yes. He would place the daughters' lives under complete surveillance. Location data, call content, messages, photos, everything was recorded, and he could even remotely activate cameras and microphones. In the interrogation room, the suspect continued his confession. I only gave them what they were looking for. The police officer's expressions hardened at these words. Single mothers want strong men. Their daughters crave father figures. I was just filling that void. What about the secret filming and recording? Insurance. In case the relationship broke down. Besides, observing young girls' lives was my hobby. The interrogating officer frowned at the nauseating confession. Then, an astounding fact came to light. The suspect had been repeating similar schemes for over 15 years. Total damages exceeded $5 million, with victims spanning the entire East Coast. A week later, in the Stamford Superior Court. Defendant James Murphy. You have committed grave crimes. The judge's voice resonated through the tense courtroom. Marriage fraud, financial fraud, illegal acquisition of personal information, attempted sexual assault of minors, stalking, and above all, the crime of trampling on innocent children's hearts weighs heavily. Victims from across the country sat in the courtroom. Mothers of various ages, and their daughters. All people whose lives had been destroyed by the same method. We lost our eldest daughter. A woman standing at the witness stand began speaking with a trembling voice. When our daughter learned she had been secretly filmed, she became mentally overwhelmed. She's now receiving treatment in a specialized hospital. She hasn't been able to return home for almost 2 years. As the reality of the damage was revealed one after another, a heavy atmosphere enveloped the courtroom. There is no atonement for your crimes. The sentence was pronounced. 25 years imprisonment. This is the minimum price for the lives, trust, and hope you stole from these people. Olivia squeezed Emily's hand tightly. Members of the First Presbyterian Church community had also come to court to support them. After the sentencing, victims gathered on the courthouse steps. There was shared pain, but also new bonds forming. Let's create a support group. Everyone nodded at one mother's suggestion. So our experiences won't be in vain. For those who might face similar dangers in the future. The evening sun beautifully tinged the courthouse spire. It looked like light announcing the end of a long nightmare and a new beginning. Then Emily said in a small voice. Mom, we'll be okay, right? Olivia nodded firmly. The wounds were deep, indeed. But mother and daughter had the strength to overcome them together. With the church community and their newly found friends. Christmas was approaching in Greenwich. Winter sunlight gently filtered through the stained glass windows of First Presbyterian Church. Almost 6 months had passed since the incident. And we were never alone. Olivia's voice from the pulpit resonated in the hearts of those gathered in the church. It was an awareness meeting about protecting children from cybercrime. As part of the Victims Association's activities, she was sharing her experience. Today, my daughter Emily will speak in her own words for the first time. The 15-year-old girl stood at the podium with a nervous expression. I was scared. But I was more afraid of ruining Mom's happiness. Mothers of various ages had gathered in the venue. Many had teenage daughters. But now I understand that family bonds can never be broken, and that we weren't to blame. Warm applause erupted from the audience at Emily's words. Detective Brian, who had handled the investigation, sat in the front row. After the meeting, the Victims Association held their regular meeting in the church's fellowship hall. Faces of fellow members from across the country appeared on a large screen via Zoom. A similar case has occurred in Florida. In New Jersey, they've begun discussing new legislation. The California chapter is planning to hold seminars in high schools. Their activities were steadily expanding. I have an update, Detective Sarah reported on the latest situation. Murphy is showing problematic behavior in prison. Unfortunately, his prospects for rehabilitation appear low. However, the victim's recovery was progressing steadily. Emily's painting won a prize at the school art exhibition. Olivia proudly presented her daughter's work. It was a watercolor depicting a mother and daughter walking hand in hand, gently wrapped in light streaming through the church's stained glass windows. Emily's counselor is very pleased with her progress. Certainly, the scars wouldn't disappear easily. But mother and daughter were moving forward one step at a time, supporting each other. How are you doing with the new phone? After the meeting, mother and daughter walked through the church garden. Emily held her new smartphone with enhanced security features. She had naturally adopted safe usage rules. Good. I'm keeping my social media personal information to a minimum. In the middle of their conversation, a phone call came in. Mrs. Thompson, CBS News is requesting an interview. It was from the Victims Association's PR representative. A national network was planning a special feature on protecting children from cybercrime. Mom, can I appear too? Emily's eyes sparkled for the first time in a while. I want to tell everyone that they don't have to be afraid. That there are always people they can talk to. Olivia embraced her daughter. Their former nightmare was now becoming a light to save others. The church bells chimed 3 o'clock. Mother and daughter began walking hand in hand as maple leaves danced in the air. Hey Mom, let's spend Christmas just as a family, like always. Yes, that would be lovely. Oh, but I still want to join the church carol group. Emily's smile warmed Olivia's heart. Their painful experience had taken much from them. But it had also taught them important lessons. The strength of family bonds. The warmth of community. And the ability to stand up again after being hurt. The winter sunset reflected off First Presbyterian Church's spire. It seemed to herald the beginning of a new season. Well, shall we head home? Yes. The sound of mother and daughter's footsteps echoed on the frozen ground. It sounded like the heartbeat of hope. In prison, James Murphy, formerly known as Michael Parker, continued writing something on his cell wall. The twisted obsession of a man deemed beyond rehabilitation hadn't disappeared. But that could no longer reach Olivia and Emily. Mother and daughter were bound by an unshakable bond, beginning a new life. And their journey would become a guidepost for others carrying similar pain. The last rays of sunlight shone on the church's cross. Emma, breakfast is ready. Margaret Wilson looked up at the staircase as she placed warm English muffins on the kitchen counter. She could hear her 8-year-old daughter's footsteps coming down from the second floor. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a soft light in the kitchen. Coming. Emma's reply was followed by the sound of small feet hurrying down the stairs. Margaret couldn't help but smile. It had been 2 years since she lost her husband, James. Though the days of raising Emma alone hadn't been easy, her daughter's presence had been her emotional anchor. "Mom, are you working at the hospital today?" Emma sat up straight in her chair and reached for the cranberry juice. Her straight black hair gleamed in the morning light. She gazed at Margaret with large eyes that resembled her father's. "Yes, night shift. Grandma will pick you up." The moment those words left her lips, Margaret felt a twinge of hesitation. Her mother-in-law, Betty Harrison, appeared kind and caring on the surface. However, sometimes Margaret sensed something unsettling behind that smile. This feeling had grown stronger since James's death. Margaret unconsciously glanced at the family photograph on the kitchen shelf. It captured the three of them smiling at the end of summer 2 years ago. Emma laughing in James's arms. Margaret herself smiling happily beside them. Everything changed less than a week after that day. The sudden illness. The emergency hospital admission. And death 3 days later. The doctors had diagnosed it as unexplained acute heart failure, but something didn't sit right with Margaret, who had 10 years of experience as a nurse. However, faced with her grief-stricken mother-in-law, she couldn't voice her doubts. "Mom, are you looking at the photo?" Emma's voice brought Margaret back to reality, and she hurriedly checked the clock. "Oh my, look at the time. We need to hurry." Just as they were heading to the door, the phone rang. The display showed Betty. Margaret frowned at the earlier-than-usual call. "Hello, Betty." "Margaret," came the syrupy voice. "I'm feeling under the weather. I think I'll be bedridden today. Are you all right? Should I call a doctor?" "No, it's not that serious. But, could you perhaps come check on me with Emma?" There was an urgency in her voice that Margaret had never heard before. And simultaneously, something else, another emotion she couldn't quite place. Margaret found herself momentarily speechless. "I want to see my granddaughter," Betty continued. "It's been a while since I last saw her." Outside, the cold spring wind rustled through the street trees. Margaret looked at Emma, who had already put on her shoes and was ready to leave. "All right. I'll come by after dropping Emma off at school. Thank you, Margaret, Betty's voice brightened. You're such a good daughter-in-law. Those words lingered in Margaret's ears even after hanging up. Looking at her reflection in the hallway mirror, she felt an unsettling sense that something was about to change. In the car, Margaret noticed her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. In the passenger seat, Emma silently stared out the window. Her usually energetic daughter was oddly quiet today. Emma, are you okay? Yes. Her response lacked energy. As they drove through the quiet suburban streets of Cambridge, the sky grew increasingly gray. Soon, Betty's old Victorian mansion came into view. The imposing structure with its white walls and green trim stood out even in this prestigious neighborhood. The gate was half open. The well-maintained garden trees cast eerie shadows as they swayed in the wind. Margaret parked the car and turned off the engine. At that moment, Emma shivered slightly. Are you cold? No, something just feels strange. Margaret hesitated at her daughter's words but didn't pursue it further. They stood before the heavy front door. After knocking, they heard an immediate response. It's open, come in. A hoarse voice came from within. When Margaret opened the door, she was hit by the smell of old furniture and a faint chemical odor. The house, usually kept immaculately clean, felt oddly oppressive today. I'm upstairs. Guided by Betty's voice, Margaret and Emma climbed the stairs. Emma's small hand gripped Margaret's tightly. Each step made the old wood creak beneath them. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Betty lay in bed, her face paler than usual. Yet her eyes had a strange gleam. Margaret, Emma, thank you for coming. Betty slowly sat up. Her silk pajamas caught the dim light. Several medicine bottles were lined up on the bedside table. How are you feeling? Margaret observed her mother-in-law with a nurse's professional eye. I have a slight fever. But I'm so happy you both came, Betty smiled. There was something different about her expression today. Emma, I baked my special cookies. They're in the kitchen. Emma looked up at her mother. Margaret gave a small nod and gently pushed her daughter's back. It's okay. Go ahead. Emma left the room reluctantly. They could hear her footsteps descending the stairs. Margaret sat down in the chair beside her mother-in-law. Shall I make some tea? Yes, please. The tea set is ready in the parlor. Just as Margaret was about to stand, they heard a noise from downstairs. Emma? Are you all right? There was no response. Margaret hesitated for a moment, then gave her mother-in-law a slight bow before leaving the room. As she descended the stairs, she felt a chill run down her spine. The parlor was located in a secluded area on the first floor. The tea set was indeed prepared there. But Emma was nowhere to be seen. No sounds came from the kitchen. Emma? Feeling increasingly anxious, Margaret headed to the kitchen. There she found Emma standing frozen in a corner. What's wrong? Emma turned around. Her face was pale, and her whole body was trembling slightly. Mom. Her daughter's voice was barely a whisper. Emma ran to her mother and gripped her hand tightly. Mom, we need to get out of here right now. Margaret felt the blood drain from her face. Just then, they heard a sound from the stairs. Turning around, they saw Betty standing at the top. Still in her pajamas, she was watching them with a slow smile. Oh, Emma. Did you enjoy the cookies? Her voice was as gentle as ever. But Emma's trembling grew stronger. Margaret felt her daughter's small body press against her arm. Betty, I think we should leave for today. Emma's not feeling well either. Oh. Betty's voice sharpened for just a moment. But the tea is ready. Just for a little while. I'm sorry, Margaret tried to keep her voice natural while squeezing Emma's hand. We'll visit another time. They headed for the front door. Margaret could feel Betty's gaze on her back as she tried not to appear rushed. Yet when she grabbed the doorknob, her hand was trembling slightly. Drive safely. Margaret nodded without turning back at Betty's voice. Outside, the cold spring wind enveloped them. They quickly got into the car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, Margaret could see Betty watching them from the second-floor window. The moment the car started moving, Emma finally let out a deep breath. Her small body was still trembling. Margaret gripped the steering wheel tightly as she drove away as quickly as she could while maintaining a natural speed. No one spoke until the house disappeared from view. Back in their living room, Emma sat silently in a corner of the sofa, as if trying to make herself smaller. Margaret placed a hot cocoa in front of her daughter and gently put a hand on her shoulder. Can you tell me? What did you see? Emma held the mug with both hands, and silence stretched between them. Outside the window, the evening sky was gradually turning purple. In the kitchen, Emma began in a trembling voice. Grandma had white powder near the tea set. Margaret caught her breath. That's not all, Emma continued. Grandma's eyes, they were the same as when Dad died. The same as when Dad died. Emma nodded slightly. That time too, it was after we had tea at Grandma's house. Dad started feeling sick. The memories came flooding back. The end of summer 2 years ago. James's sudden illness. 3 days in the hospital. And the unexpected death. At the time, she had been too overwhelmed with grief to carefully consider the circumstances. Margaret stood up and went to her study. From the drawer where she kept her nursing records, she pulled out a copy of James's medical records. As a nurse, she had developed the habit of keeping all records. She spread out the records and reviewed the progression of symptoms. Sudden vomiting, dizziness, confusion. Then death from acute heart failure. Something felt off. Drawing from her 10 years of nursing experience, something was starting to connect in her mind. She took out her smartphone and called her colleague, Dr. Sarah Cohen, who worked in the emergency department at the local hospital. Sarah, I'm sorry for the sudden call. She explained James's symptoms while looking at the records. Does this remind you of anything? On the other end of the line, Sarah was silent for a moment. Margaret, I'll be honest, Sarah's voice was lower and more careful than usual. This looks similar to digitalis poisoning. Digitalis? Margaret gasped. A cardiac glycoside used to treat heart conditions. Overdose can be fatal. Yes. Especially the progression of vomiting and consciousness disturbance is characteristic. But, why now? Margaret was connecting Betty's behavior today, Emma's fear, and the memories from 2 years ago. With trembling hands, she ended the call. When she returned to the living room, Emma was sitting on the sofa with her knees pulled up to her chest. Night was falling, and the shadows in the room were growing deeper. "Mom," Emma called in a small voice. "I remember Dad well." Margaret sat next to her daughter. Emma continued. "Right after Dad had tea at Grandma's house, he started feeling sick. But Grandma wasn't panicked at all. Rather." Emma paused as if searching for words. She seemed happy. Margaret felt her spine freeze at those words. In her memory, Betty's unnatural behavior came flooding back. Her abnormal calmness at the hospital. Her unusually quick recovery after James's death. And her obsessive attitude about managing the inheritance. The phone rang. The display showed Betty. Margaret ignored the call and dialed a different number instead. "Hello, is this the Cambridge Police Department?" Her voice was surprisingly calm, even to herself. "My husband died suddenly 2 years ago. And today, my mother-in-law." As she continued her explanation, Margaret hugged Emma. She could still feel her daughter's small body trembling slightly. Outside the window, stars were beginning to twinkle in the spring night sky. After finishing her conversation with the police, Margaret called Sarah again. They would need expert medical testimony. And possibly a re-examination of James's body. While stroking her daughter's hair, Margaret said, "Your courage saved us." Emma remained silent, just holding on to Margaret tightly. That night, they decided to sleep in the same bed. In the darkness, Margaret listened to her daughter's breathing while steeling herself for the long battle ahead. The police had already begun moving. Investigation into Betty's past. Re-examination of James's cause of death. And above all, ensuring Emma's safety. Unread messages from Betty kept arriving on her cell phone. The obsession felt abnormal. Margaret turned off the phone and held Emma closer. Protect her beloved daughter. Margaret held this firm resolve in her heart in the darkness. In the police station interrogation room, Margaret stood before the one-way mirror, watching Betty Harrison being questioned on the other side. Dr. Sarah Cohen stood beside her, taking notes on her expert observations. 3 days ago, the house search had uncovered decisive evidence. Multiple pharmaceutical substances found in a kitchen cabinet. Digitalis powder. And most shockingly, detailed records dating back to the time of James's death. "It's like a nursing record," Sarah whispered. "Everything from dosage to progress monitoring is meticulously documented." Margaret nodded silently. Given Betty's perfectionist nature, it made sense. Yet she still shuddered at the fact that this perfectionism had been directed toward taking her son's life. In the interrogation room, Betty's demeanor was gradually changing. The dignified appearance she had maintained during her arrest had faded, and now she sat in the chair with a disturbed expression. "I was only trying to save my son." Her voice echoed through the speakers. "I had to protect him from her. Margaret was too perfect. Not suitable for my son." The interrogator continued questioning in a calm voice. "And you planned the same for your granddaughter and her mother?" "Yes." Betty's voice suddenly turned cold. "They took everything from my son. The inheritance, the memories, everything." Margaret caught her breath. Sarah placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. "But I had a plan," Betty continued, her eyes taking on an unusual gleam. "First, to save my son. Free him from that woman. And then—" Betty suddenly stood up and walked toward the one-way mirror, as if sensing Margaret's presence. "You destroyed my perfect family. So I—" As the interrogator moved to restrain her, Betty collapsed into the chair. Then, an unexpected confession began. Betty's childhood in a wealthy Boston family in the 1960s. Psychological abuse from her stepmother. Days of being pushed to perfection. A political marriage at 19. And the birth of her only son, her sole salvation. "James was my everything," Betty's voice trembled. "My reason for living. My life itself." But as her son grew, Betty's desire for control became twisted. College, career, and marriage, every event took her son further from his mother's grasp. "Margaret was too perfect," Betty repeated. "Kind, intelligent, caring. But I couldn't stand it. My son wasn't worthy of such a perfect woman. She would change my son." Sarah whispered, "Shows characteristics of grandiose personality disorder." Betty's confession continued. Her abnormal attachment to her son. Her obsession with the perfect family image. And her plan to reclaim everything. "I started with small amounts. Mixed in the tea." Betty's voice became eerily calm. "Gradually increased the dose while monitoring the effects. Playing nurse. But I was more perfect." There was a moment when the air in the interrogation room seemed to freeze. And the plan worked. But Betty suddenly broke down crying. "My son died. But that too was destiny. We'll be together forever." Margaret closed her eyes. Memories raced through her mind like a film reel. Meeting James. Betty's subtle expression at the wedding. And her unusual calmness at her son's death. Everything connected. A detective entered the room. "This is sufficient. Charges will be murder and attempted murder. Life imprisonment is inevitable." Margaret nodded silently. Outside the window, the rain had stopped, and sunlight was beginning to break through. "Motherhood sometimes breeds madness," Sarah said quietly. "No," Margaret answered. "That wasn't motherhood. It was obsession." In the interrogation room, Betty sat with her head bowed deeply. Her life's pursuit of perfection was ironically reaching its most twisted conclusion. Looking back, Emma was sleeping on a sofa in the police station. Margaret sat beside her daughter and held her small hand. Now, she strongly felt that this pure bond between mother and daughter was the true form of family. 1 year later, Margaret and Emma had finished moving into their new house. In a quiet residential area of Medford, slightly removed from Cambridge's bustle. A maple tree beginning to show its autumn colors stood in the garden, and mornings brought the awakening songs of small birds. "Mom, can I hang this photo in my new room?" Emma pulled a photograph from a cardboard box. It was from 3 years ago, a summer trip to Cape Cod. The three of them on the beach, Emma laughing innocently while her parents smiled together beside her. Of course, Margaret gently stroked her daughter's hair. "I'm sure Dad would be happy to see our new home." Emma was now 9 years old. Over the past year, she had developed both the delicacy and strength of a young girl. She maintained excellent grades at school and made several new friends. Most importantly, she had begun to heal from those events, little by little. The school transfer was definitely the right choice. Dr. Sarah Cohen said, drinking coffee in a deck chair during a weekend visit. "Emma's expression is completely different." Indeed, after Betty was sentenced to life imprisonment, her daughter's expression gradually regained its brightness. In the new environment, she was able to slowly distance herself from the heavy memories. The counselor praised Emma's resilience, Margaret answered, watching her daughter playing in the distance. "Children truly have remarkable strength." The clear autumn blue spread across the sky, and a pleasant breeze stirred the garden trees. "What about the letters from Betty?" Sarah asked quietly. "Yes, they still come every month," Margaret answered with a sigh. "But I've decided not to reply anymore." The letters from prison were initially filled with intense resentment. However, as time passed, their tone changed. Through regular sessions with a psychiatrist, Betty seemed to slowly begin understanding the gravity of her actions. In her most recent letter, she had written, "In my excessive love for my son, I twisted love itself. In pursuing perfection, I destroyed what was most precious. I know I cannot be forgiven. I only pray that you and Emma find true happiness." "Perhaps it's the beginning of her own form of atonement," Sarah said. Margaret nodded silently. Hatred and anger no longer dominated her heart. They had transformed into something deeper, beyond feelings of revenge or punishment. "Hey, Mom," Emma came running from the garden. "Let's visit Dad's grave tomorrow." Their monthly visit to James's grave had become not a place to recall painful memories, but a place to confirm their bond with a cherished loved one. "Yes, let's bring pictures of our new house." Emma nodded happily. "I have so many things to tell Dad. About my new school, my friends." As evening approached, long shadows began stretching across the garden. After Sarah left, Margaret gazed at the view from the kitchen window while preparing dinner. From their new house, they could see the Charles River. The surface of the water gleamed golden in the setting sun. There, A new story was beginning for the mother and daughter who continued walking forward while accepting the weight of their past memories. That night, watching Emma's sleeping face, Margaret smiled quietly. Tomorrow she had the night shift at the hospital. The ordinary daily routine now felt more precious than ever. By the bedside sat a new family photo. A composition of pictures of Margaret and Emma, alongside James's photo. Past, present, and hope for the future were all contained within that single frame. Outside, the autumn wind gently rustled the trees, and the full moon's light tenderly embraced their new home. It was as if blessing the beginning of their new life. Every morning in Santa Barbara begins with the fragrance of jacaranda blossoms. On this May morning, the refreshing breeze was dancing with purple petals in the air. In the peaceful residential area of Hope Ranch, Jennifer Wilson was busy preparing breakfast in her elegant Spanish colonial revival mansion. She spooned organic granola into a bowl and garnished it with fresh blueberries. Her 8-year-old daughter Lily sat at the kitchen island, reviewing her homework just like any other morning. Jenny, wearing a cashmere cardigan from Theory, watched over her daughter while switching on the coffee maker. "Lily, how was your math test yesterday?" "I got a perfect score, Mom. The teacher praised me in front of the whole class." Jenny gently stroked her daughter's head. It had been 3 years since she lost her husband. 3 years since their last service at Trinity Episcopal Church. Balancing her real estate investment company with raising a child wasn't easy, but Lily's smile was her greatest source of strength. They never missed Sunday church and actively participated in charity work. Those around her praised her as an exceptional mother. After completing her morning routine and seeing Lily off, Jenny arranged the monthly wire transfer to her parents. Since her father Robert's company went bankrupt, she had become the guarantor for her parents' mortgage, essentially bearing the financial burden. It was a 1970s ranch-style house, the home where her parents had lived for over 30 years. Jenny faithfully continued her monthly support to ensure they wouldn't lose it. She was also paying the tuition for her niece Emily at Laguna Blanca School, a private institution. Her sister Patty's construction worker husband's salary couldn't possibly cover such expenses. Still, Patty kept making various demands for the child's future. On the surface, they appeared to be a harmonious family. Sunday dinners were filled with lively conversation around their mother's home cooking. However, Jenny had been feeling increasingly uneasy lately. Her sister Patty's Facebook was constantly updated with photos of luxury brand bags and overseas trips. It was an extravagant lifestyle that couldn't possibly be supported by her part-time nail salon income. Despite receiving help from both parents and sister, discontent always lingered in Patty's eyes. Margaret, their mother, spoiled her younger daughter Patty excessively. Dressed in expensive dresses from Chico's, she enjoyed lunches with neighborhood friends and always took her youngest's side. "Because I feel sorry for her," she would say, agreeing to unreasonable demands for Emily's extracurricular activities and tuition. Ultimately, Jenny would end up covering these expenses. Their father Robert was obsessed with keeping up appearances. Even after his company's bankruptcy, he refused to give up his luxury car. He maintained his golf club membership and continued to speak loudly at HOA meetings, trying to demonstrate his former influence. Words of gratitude to Jenny, who supported the family's finances, had become taken for granted. A new ripple was about to spread through this dysfunctional family relationship. "Jenny, why don't we all go for a family picnic at Ealing's Park this weekend? It's right before Mother's Day after all." It was a sudden invitation from her mother. Despite feeling uneasy about the words "strengthen family bonds," Jenny agreed when she saw how excited Lily was. "Wow! Can we buy a new picnic basket? I saw such a cute one at J.Crew." Jenny found herself sharing her daughter's innocent excitement. Watching Lily choose a new picnic basket and try on her favorite clothes brought a smile to her face. The following Saturday, Robert's brand new BMW glided into the Ealing's Park parking lot. Margaret in the passenger seat wore a pale blue dress from Talbot's, with makeup more carefully applied than usual. In the back seat, Emily was absorbed in her new iPad. "Lily, hurry up and get in." There was a hint of urgency in Margaret's voice. Lily carefully climbed into the back seat, clutching her new hat. Her pink sundress from J.Crew Crewcuts was a favorite she had chosen with her mother Jenny. She flashed a bright smile at her grandmother in the front seat. "Grandma, look at this picnic basket. Mom bought it for me." Margaret glanced at her granddaughter in the mirror, forcing a smile. "Oh, how lovely." Patty followed in her own car. Ever image-conscious, she refused to give up her luxury SUV despite struggling with the mortgage on her home in a new development. The early summer sunlight gently embraced the streets of Santa Barbara. It was perfect picnic weather. However, beneath this perfect sunlight, a cruel plan was about to unfold. Upon arriving at the park, Emily immediately distanced herself from Lily. Away from the adults' eyes, she shot mean glances at her cousin. It was nothing new. Lily had learned to endure it silently. "Let's take a commemorative photo," Margaret called out, raising her smartphone with an exaggeratedly cheerful voice. "Emily, stand next to Lily. Let's take a nice picture together." Emily briefly showed her displeasure before switching to an agreeable smile. In front of the camera, she could play the perfect young lady. However, her arm was digging painfully into Lily's waist. Fighting back the pain, Lily managed to smile too. Homemade sandwiches were laid out, and fruit salad in mason jars was distributed. The adults engaged in trivial conversation, but there was a strange tension in the air. Particularly between Patty and Margaret, their exchanged glances seemed to hide some dark scheme. Around 2 p.m., Lily went to the restroom alone. "Be careful," Margaret's voice followed her. There was something unnatural about its tone. When Lily returned from the restroom, she found an empty lawn where their picnic had been. Everything was gone, their belongings, the new picnic basket, everything. It was as if the pleasant picnic from moments ago had been just an illusion. "Grandma? Grandpa?" No response. "Emily?" Only silence enveloped her. Though panicked, Lily desperately searched the area. She borrowed a phone from a stranger family and dialed her mother's number with trembling fingers. Her heart pounded violently as the phone rang. "Mom, help. They left me behind and took my cousin away." Her voice cracked. The tears wouldn't stop. "What? Where are you right now?" Jenny's voice was filled with intense distress. After hanging up with her daughter, Jenny immediately called her parents. "Mom, where's Lily?" After a moment of silence following her stern tone. "Oh, I'm sorry. We forgot about her." Margaret's voice was unnaturally bright. In the background, Patty's laughter could be heard. She must be so surprised. In that moment, something froze in Jenny's heart. This wasn't mere carelessness. It was a calculated, cruel act. Lily sat on a park bench, hugging her knees and trembling. The early summer sun still shone brightly, but her world had been plunged into darkness. The kind family who had lent her their phone watched worriedly from a distance. "It's okay. Your mom will be here soon." A stranger woman spoke kindly to her. Lily gave a small nod in response. When Jenny's crimson Porsche Cayenne pulled into the Ealing's Park parking lot, the sun was still high in the sky. Her hands were still shaking on the steering wheel. "Lily." The moment she saw her mother, Lily ran to her. Jenny held her daughter tightly, feeling the slight tremor still running through her small body. The stranger family approached with concern. "Poor thing, she's been trembling the whole time." "Thank you." "Really?" Jenny's voice caught in her throat. At the park management office, they reviewed the security camera footage. The images were cruelly clear, her parents and Patty's family hastily packing up their things, getting into their cars while laughing. It had all been planned. "This is clearly child abuse," the park ranger stated with a stern expression. "Should we contact the police?" Jenny thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, I'll handle this as a family matter." Back home, Lily took out her iPad. "Mom, look." It had recorded the conversation just before she was abandoned. "Let's quickly pack up while she's in the restroom." "Yes, let's all leave together. We're leaving her behind." "How fun." It was Patty's voice. A week later, relatives gathered at Jenny's mansion in Hope Ranch. It was 3 p.m. on a Sunday, normally when she would be participating in church charity events. A heavy atmosphere hung in the reception room. Robert, Margaret, Patty's family, aunt and uncle, cousins. All eyes were fixed on the iPad placed in the center of the table. Please watch the following footage and audio. Jenny's voice maintained its composure. The security camera footage played, followed by the audio Lily had recorded, and then footage of her daughter's distressed state after the incident. The evidence was perfect. "I don't want to hear any excuses." Jenny's voice echoed quietly. She fixed her gaze on her parents and Patty. "I can't believe you're making such a big deal." Margaret began. "It was just a prank. Children often." "A prank?" Jenny's voice grew colder. Abandoning an 8-year-old child in an unfamiliar place. This is what you call a prank. Jenny, calm down. Robert raised his voice. We're family, if we just talk. Jenny gave a bitter laugh. How dare you say such things after putting my daughter in danger? But that girl. Patty's voice trembled. Always perfect, getting top grades, loved by everyone. Look at Emily. At the same school, always being compared. So you abandoned an 8-year-old child. Now, everyone calm down. Margaret smiled diplomatically. This too is a form of family love. Love? Jenny's voice was ice cold. Then let me show you my form of love. She took out her smartphone and opened Facebook. I'm about to post about this incident. In the church community group, the PTA group, and the HOA group. Stop! Margaret screamed. Our reputation. Reputation is important. Then why did you do something like abandoning an 8-year-old child? Robert stood up. Jenny, we intend to apologize. Any further? It's too late. The post button was pressed. This is just the first consequence. The aunt and uncle sighed deeply. The cousins turned away. Everyone sensed the magnitude of the storm that was about to break. Leave. Jenny's voice was devoid of emotion. As of today, I'm cutting ties with all of you. Margaret broke down crying. Are you trying to destroy us? You chose this outcome yourselves. No one could argue with those words. After her parents and Patty's family left, the remaining relatives gathered around Jenny. We're on your side. A cousin spoke gently. We'll help with whatever you need. Church bells rang. Social media was already in an uproar. Justice and betrayal. Love and hate. Truth and lies. Everything had begun to swirl. In Santa Barbara's upscale business district, on the 15th floor of a modern building housing top-tier companies, a heavy atmosphere hung in the conference room of a prestigious law firm. Across from Jenny sat her father Robert, mother Margaret, and Patty. Patty's husband couldn't take time off work and was absent. We've gathered today for an important notification. Jenny's legal counsel began in a solemn voice. First, regarding the withdrawal of Mr. Robert Wilson's mortgage guarantee. Documents were distributed. As of today, Ms. Jenny Wilson will terminate her role as guarantor. Wait. Margaret's voice cracked. Then we. Next, regarding Emily Wilson's tuition support at Laguna Blanca School. The lawyer continued, ignoring Margaret's voice. All support will cease after this semester. How could you be so cruel? Patty shouted. Are you trying to ruin Emily's future? Jenny silently took out the final document. Additionally, all monthly living support will end as of today. Silence fell over the conference room. Robert's voice trembled. Why do you need to go this far? A cold light entered Jenny's eyes. Why did you need to go that far? Outside the window, jacaranda flowers swayed in the wind. The purple blossoms fell silently, as if watching over the family's collapse. "Would you tell me the truth?" Jenny's voice was quiet but filled with determination. "Why such a cruel act?" Patty suddenly broke down crying. I suggested it." The truth she revealed was uglier than imagined. Patty had always envied her sister's success. Jenny, successful in real estate investment, living in a luxury home, acting as the perfect mother. Meanwhile, she had a part-time job, a low-income husband, and a mortgage in a new development. The gap seemed to grow wider day by day. What she couldn't stand most was Lily's existence. That girl, always getting perfect scores. Patty's voice twisted. 10 or 20 points higher than Emily, teachers always praising her. Their parents' complicity came from foolish reasons. Margaret's excessive love for her youngest daughter Patty led her to accept these twisted demands. Robert, having lost his autonomy through economic dependence, simply went along with it. "Is this how you repay me?" No one could answer Jenny's question. Right after leaving the conference room, Patty's smartphone rang. It was an email from Laguna Blanca School. A notice of expulsion due to unpaid tuition. Simultaneously, she received a payment delay warning from her credit card company. That evening, disaster struck at Robert and Margaret's home as well. The loan payment. Robert muttered, holding a collection notice from the bank. "What should we do?" "I'll ask my friends." Margaret desperately operated her phone. However, friends who had seen her social media posts were blocking her one after another. Days later, the situation worsened. Arguments with Patty's husband became constant. "She couldn't counter his words, because of your selfish actions." Emily, forced to transfer schools, struggled to adapt to her new environment and began avoiding school. Residents of the luxury housing development began openly avoiding Robert and Margaret. They weren't invited to HOA meetings, and received cold stares at church. At Trinity Episcopal Church, Margaret was seen leaving in tears after being removed from the charity committee. A month later, the final collapse arrived. Patty's husband decided on divorce, leaving with the words, "I can't stay with a mother who would endanger children." Robert and Margaret, unable to pay their mortgage, faced eviction from their luxury housing development. "I never thought it would come to this." From Jenny's office window, the sunset was visible. She quietly sipped her wine as Lily nestled close to her. "Mom, why don't you forgive Grandma and the others?" Jenny embraced her daughter. "I'm sorry. But this punishment was necessary. To protect you. And to teach them what true love means." The setting sun painted the purple jacaranda flowers red as it sank over the city. In that light, mother and daughter held each other tightly. This wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. Their journey to discover the true meaning of family was just beginning. One Sunday, a year later, Jenny and Lily stood in Trinity Episcopal Church as morning light filtered through the stained glass windows. They had just finished their weekly counseling session and were about to attend the regular service. "Dr. Thompson, thank you for another wonderful session today." Jenny smiled at the psychologist. I'm so grateful to see Lily's smile returning. Indeed, Lily's expression had become brighter than before. She had overcome her trauma, made new friends, and her grades had improved even further. The bond between mother and daughter had grown stronger through their ordeal. "Mom, look." Lily pointed to new jacaranda buds sprouting. "The purple flowers will bloom again." "Yes." Jenny gently stroked her daughter's head. "We're entering a new season too." Meanwhile, the perpetrators met miserable ends. Robert and Margaret were forced to give up their mansion in Hope Ranch, saying goodbye to the home of 35 years. When they left the luxury housing development, not one of their former friends came to bid them farewell. Now they live modestly in a city apartment. Their savings depleted, the weight of retirement uncertainty bears down on them daily. Social media pretenses, luxury club memberships, all are things of the past. The complete exclusion from their community was particularly painful. "We can no longer have people like you on the charity committee." The cold words at church. "We must ask you to refrain from attending HOA meetings." The cruel notification from old friends. Patty's situation was even more dire. Her divorce was finalized, and her ex-husband remarried. With restricted parental rights, she could only see Emily once a month. Life in public housing was a stark change. Her part-time salary barely covered expenses, and she could no longer rely on her parents. Emily continued to skip school, attending counseling sessions regularly. Gone were the days of luxury brands, replaced by second-hand clothes. Her social media accounts were deleted. At the family council, her uncle delivered a harsh verdict. "You are no longer welcome at any family events. No Christmas, no Thanksgiving, no birthdays. You are no longer family." True to these words, they were completely cut off from the family. Their faces were even removed from family photographs. However, through this ordeal, Jenny and Lily had made new discoveries. Real family isn't just about blood ties, is it? They found joy in being warmly welcomed and supported by their new church community. Using money to control others isn't love, after all. Jenny reflected on the past when she had used financial support as a weapon to maintain twisted power relationships. One day, Lily's teacher remarked, "Your mother is a very courageous person. She risked everything to protect her child." Jenny nodded deeply at these words. Sometimes, cutting family ties is necessary to protect those you love, she explained to her daughter. But in return, the bonds with those who truly matter grow stronger. At dusk, from the heights of Hope Ranch, they looked down at the Santa Barbara cityscape. The purple jacaranda flowers gleamed in the sunset. "Hey, Mom." Lily looked up at the sky. "We'll always be together, right?" "Yes, of course." Jenny smiled. "Protecting you is my greatest happiness." The church bells rang on the breeze. Their clear, strong sound spread across the entire city, as if announcing the beginning of a new chapter. This story is a record of courage, of a mother and daughter who freed themselves from the bonds of blood relations to choose ties based on true love. And it asks us, what is real family? What is true love? What does it mean to protect a child? The answers continue to dance in the Santa Barbara sky, carried by purple petals.